My grandmother lived in a home that she said was haunted. When I was a kid in 1984, that house was already 100 years old. I remember that every room only had one electrical outlet, so Grandma would have 7 things plugged into one extension cord. And yes, we sometimes saw sparks. The house had originally been 3 separate apartments, but when my grandparents bought the home, my grandfather knocked some walls out so that they could come and go between each apartment. Considering they had 7 kids, they needed all the space they could get. It also made the house look kind of weird. There was a door that you would pass to go up the stairs, but it no longer was visible from the outside as Grandpa had put siding on the house and sided over the door. The upstairs was very cool as it remained a full apartment with living room, a bathroom, and fully functioning kitchen. I was one of the youngest grandkids, having many cousins that were either adults or teens. I had a few cousins that were around my age, and we would spend a lot of time together at Grandma's house. She was sweet and kind. She loved her grandkids and always baked for us or made us root beer floats. She always took the time to make us feel special. She also had a tendency to tell us scary things as well. She once told me that when she dies, she will come and visit me. I was maybe 7 years old at the time, and I smiled at her, but I remember thinking, please don't do that. As I write this now, being in my 50s, if she ever visited me, I sadly missed it. Grandma loved to talk about the good ghosts that haunted the house. She would tell us about the woman who just walked around the house at night. Grandma said she was friendly and never did anything to scare anyone. I thought her walking around the house was scary enough. But okay. Grandma would let me stay the night at her house sometimes. I always slept downstairs on the pull-out couch. From my memories of staying the night there and being alone in the living room, with my grandparents asleep in their bedroom just a few rooms away, nothing ever happened. I never saw anything. I never heard anything. My mother told me she only had one scary experience in the house when she was younger. She said she used to sleep upstairs, and one night her bedroom door, that was always left open, slammed shut. She said it slammed so hard it scared her half to death. But then it made a click sound, as though the knob had been turned, and slowly reopened with a slow creak. She started yelling for her sisters, and she thought it was a prank. But no one answered. Mother said that was the only scary situation that ever happened to her the whole time growing up in that house. I used to listen to Grandma tell all the stories of grandkids that would try to sleep upstairs, but then would come running down the stairs in the middle of the night. She would laugh about hearing their thundering footsteps as they ran down the stairs. She said no grandkids had ever been able to stay the whole night upstairs. The stairs that go up to the 2nd floor were probably the creepiest stairs I have ever seen in my life. You had to go through a dark room without any lights. No electrical outlet in that room. But the stairway did have a light. Once you turned into the doorway that led to the stairs, you would make a sharp right to start going up. The stairs were painted brown, and the walls were a dingy pale yellow color. The stairs got to a landing and turned to the right halfway up, so you could never see what was at the top. The one light dangled. It was just a light bulb on a long cord that would swing around if you bumped it. Once you got to the top of the stairs, there was a large brown door. Sometimes it was open, sometimes it was closed. When it was closed, it was scarier. There was an old photo that was in a large wooden frame of my great-grandmother and great-great-grandmother. They were standing next to each other, not smiling. They appeared to be wearing all black, but maybe it's just because it was a black and white photo. My grandmother had said it was from her mother's wedding. It was a very spooky photo. It just felt as though they stared at you and were angry. When you first reached the top of the stairs, you went into the living room that had a couch, some bookshelves, and a small TV. To the left was a kitchen and dining room that was very large. It had 2 large windows that went floor to ceiling but just overlooked the neighbor's house. There was a very old-fashioned gas stove that only had 2 burners. The bathroom was just creepy. Old, unused, and dark. The worst part about the bathroom was that it also connected to the attic. The attic was to the left, and it was dark. You had to kneel down a bit to get to the attic door that just looked like a bunch of wood slats that were nailed together. Creepy. I never went near it. One day, I was talking with my cousin Mary. I had talked with her about how no grandkids had ever made it a full night upstairs at Grandma's. I asked her if she wanted to try it. We pulled in another friend of ours, Crystal, so there would be 3 of us. We called up Grandma and asked if we could stay the night. It was a Saturday, so Grandma agreed that we could stay the night upstairs. We packed up our overnight bags and off to Grandma's we went. We spent the afternoon with Grandma, eating, talking, watching TV with her. Grandma went to bed early, super early. Bedtime was 4 p.m. for her. After that, we were on our own. Grandma said goodnight, let us know to come get her if we needed anything, and we said goodnight to her. Then, up the stairs we went. We had a great time. Grandma had a jukebox and records. We played music, watched TV. We were about 10 years old, so having the whole apartment to ourselves was a blast. We had decided to just stay up all night if we could. That way, we would not have to worry about the scary things we had been told about. We could leave all the lights on and just do an all-nighter. We played some board games and then decided to sit on the couch and chat. It was around midnight. As we were sitting on the couch, chatting and enjoying ourselves, I heard psst. It was very quiet and sounded like it was coming from the stairway. The door was open and I could see into the stairwell. The one lone light just hanging in there above the landing. You could not see at the bottom of the stairs, just to the landing. I didn't say anything at first. No one else seemed to notice it. The sound kind of scared me and I for sure did not want to cause a panic. I was the one closest to the stairs, which was also a bit scary. We continued talking, and pretty soon I heard it again. Psst. It was still light like a whisper, like someone just wanted my attention. My cousin looked at me and said, "Did you hear it?" I looked at her. Yes, I heard it. At that point, all three of us agreed that we had heard the first one and didn't want to say anything. Now all three of us were scared. I came up with a few logical reasons for the sounds. At first, I said, I left the record player on and the turntable is spinning. We looked in the next room, and it was unplugged. That was Grandma's requirement. If you are not using the record player, unplug it. My cousin said it was a radiator or heater hissing, maybe. My cousin tried to calm us down. She jumped up, started folding some blankets, talking in a fun, jovial tone, and trying to take our minds off of it. Then we heard, psst. It was not quiet. It was not a whisper. Whatever it was done whispering and demanded attention. I yelled out, "Grandma, this is not funny. You're scaring us." Nothing. Not a sound. Grandma did not respond. We heard no footsteps. I said to my cousin and our friend, Crystal, we need to walk calmly to the stairs and walk calmly down the stairs. We managed to get to the top of the stairs when all three of us took off running, fighting each other to the very bottom, running around the corner, through the dark room, and back into Grandma's living room. Grandma was nowhere in sight. She was still in bed. It was the middle of the night. We still had all night to go. We pulled out the bed from the couch and turned on MTV. The rest of the night, every sound, every shadow would make us jump. I was seeing things and kept thinking someone was in the stairway and peeking around the corner at us. I never attempted to find out if that was true. I just did my best not to look. I did not ever try to sleep upstairs again. Until, when I was 18 years old, we temporarily moved in with Grandma after Grandpa died. My room was upstairs. I lived up there for a year and never heard or saw a thing. Even though I remembered that scary night vividly, I was not fearful of sleeping upstairs. But that night, that whisper from the stairwell, I'll never forget that.
I work from home most days. Small marketing team, remote meetings, casual dress code, unless a client's on the call. That Monday started like any other. Coffee, emails, then the 9 a.m. video call. It was just me, Darren from IT, and my manager, Kelsey. I sat at my desk in the corner of my living room. The curtains were drawn. The door was shut. The house was silent. We were maybe 5 minutes in when Kelsey stopped mid-sentence and squinted at her screen. "Wait," she said slowly. "Who was that behind you just now?" I blinked. "What?" Darren leaned closer to his camera. "Yeah, someone just walked behind you, like really fast." My stomach dropped. "No one's here." Kelsey gave a nervous laugh. "It was probably your boyfriend or something." "I'm single," I said, already standing up. "And my front door's locked." They watched as I slowly turned my laptop so they could see the rest of the room. Empty. Then I opened the door to the hallway. Nothing. The only sound was my own breathing. "Must have been a weird shadow," I said, trying to laugh it off. But something inside me was buzzing, some deep, primal alarm. We went back to the meeting, but I barely heard a word. My eyes kept drifting to the dark hallway outside my office. After the call ended, I walked the house, every room, every closet. I even checked the attic latch. All clear. I can't believe how much this has freaked me out. I convinced myself they imagined it. Or maybe it was a trick of the lighting. You know, just paranoia feeding itself. That night, considering I still feel paranoid, I set my laptop to record, just to prove to myself there was nothing to worry about. In the morning, I watched the video and fast forward. I wish I hadn't. Around 2:13 a.m., the footage shows me sleeping soundly in bed. Nothing unusual. Until a shadow moves across the hallway, just barely visible in the dim nightlight. Then, a figure, pale, thin. It steps into the doorway of my room. It doesn't walk in. It leans. It leans farther than a normal body can lean, just far enough for its head to tilt inside. And then, it turns slowly. It looks directly into the laptop camera. I shut off the video. I shut the laptop. I left the apartment and stayed with family until I could get my things and eventually move. My parents were heading to Chicago for the weekend, a work thing from my dad and some spa event from my mom. They were leaving Saturday morning with a plan to return Sunday evening, so they would not be gone very long. They sat me down before leaving and gave the usual warnings: no parties, no alcohol, no staying out all night, and don't forget to lock up, my dad said, jiggling the doorknob for the third time like it was some ancient vault. I nodded like the obedient 16-year-old they believed I was, but as soon as their car pulled out of the driveway, I texted my friends, "Come over at 9, just a few of us. Chill night, bring snacks." By 9:15, Jalen, Mia, and Ethan had arrived with a backpack full of sodas, chips, and a Bluetooth speaker. We sat in the living room, lights dimmed, laughing over dumb horror movies and debating which of us would survive if it were real. At 11:03, the doorbell rang. We all looked at each other. No one was expecting anyone else. "You invite someone?" Mia asked. I shook my head no. I peeked through the peephole. No one was there. "You guys didn't tell anyone about tonight, did you?" I asked them. They all said no and shrugged. "You're gonna get me in trouble," I said. "We didn't tell anyone, swear," they confirmed. We laughed it off, but something in my stomach tightened. We went back to watching movies, but we were not laughing as much this time. I found myself thinking about the doors and windows. Was everything locked? It is a commonly known prank to ring and ditch. Now I know how uneasy that can make you feel. A few minutes later, we heard something, this time like a soft tap on the window. "Okay, not funny," Ethan said, standing up. "Someone's trying to prank us." None of us were laughing anymore. I walked to the window and I pulled the curtain back. Just our yard, trees swaying, driveway empty. But I saw the bushes move, and it was not a normal sway in the breeze. A shape low to the ground slipped behind the hedge. We checked every door, locked. I even double-checked the windows, secure. "What about your dad's camera system?" Ethan said. I pulled up the app and I started cycling through a few of the cameras. The front yard, just the porch, the soft glow of the porch light with some moss flying around it. The backyard. There was one light above the back door that shone into the backyard, but only went so far. Beyond the patio where the grill was, just pitch black darkness. I found myself staring into the darkness when the power went out. All at once, TV dead, lights off, speakers silent. A moment of stillness. Then Ethan whispered, "Did you pay your bill?" I tried to laugh, but couldn't. I turned on my phone flashlight, and I motioned for everyone to stay together. Suddenly, A loud bang on the back sliding door. We all jumped. I caught a glimpse through the glass. A tall person. He appeared to be wearing a hoodie to conceal himself, but it was dark. He had what looked like a metal rake in his hand, and he pulled it back to begin the next swing at the glass to break it. Another hooded figure emerged from behind him, saying something and motioning to him to hurry up. "Call the cops!" Mia yelled. We didn't wait for that. We ran for the front door and ran out of the house. I didn't even stop to make sure the door was shut, much less locked. We piled into Jalen's car and drove to the nearest gas station, breathless and pale, when we came back an hour later. With a police escort just in case. The patio door had been broken. Some items had been turned over. It definitely appeared to be a robbery. The police did a check of the house and the property and reported that whoever was there is now gone. Of course, the police wanted to know where my parents were, and of course they were going to call them. Jalen grabbed his car keys and motioned to Mia and Ethan. "Time for us to go, man. You going to be all right?" "You can stay the night at my house if you want," Mia chimed in. "Yeah, sounds good." "Thank you," I said. The police said they would patrol the area overnight. For now, my parents were not mad. They were just relieved. But Dad said that we would be discussing the breaking of rules later on. I got into the car and we drove away. The porch light was still on, the house looking peaceful despite all that had happened tonight. I may never feel safe there again. A couple of weeks later, they did find the guys who broke in. Apparently, it was someone that had just started working with my dad and knew my dad would be out of town. I guess me being home was a surprise he did not expect.